So this is the last video in this series. I'm going to try to wrap up and hopefully you'll continue the momentum in your job search. This is Anne-Marie Segal. I'm an executive coach and resume writer. I've been doing this for 10 years. Prior to that, I was an attorney for 15 years. This series has been for the thousands, tens of thousands of federal employees and others who have lost their jobs in spring 2025 in the United States. I feel for you if you are in this situation. And if you're watching this video and not in this situation, and you have a chance to hire someone who was laid off, all I can say is imagine what they're going through and cut them a little slack. If you are the target audience of this video, I've talked about um, creating, redirecting your negativity. I've talked about thinking expansively. I've talked about creating a resume. I've talked about your reason for leaving, pacing yourself, organizing your job search, a bit about interviewing. What I would say in closing is to own it, to own everything. And I use that term owning to mean everything that's happened to you, it's happened. Everything negative, everything out of your control, it's happened. There's no crawling up into a ball and, or pretending like it didn't happen. And frankly, anyone who's worth working with as an employer, as a manager, as a colleague, will understand why you're in the situation that you are. Will understand this is a macro event that's out of your control. So wanting to crawl up in your shell and feeling very vulnerable after this, that's a very natural response. It's not a very helpful response over the long term. It's something that you want to work through and move on from. But the larger point about owning it is owning your own success, owning your own accomplishments, owning your value. I haven't used the word personal branding in this series until now because it's kind of an intimidating word. I've often talked about it as what used to be your reputation, and now we talk about personal branding. Again, if you're coming from the federal government, this may not be a term you're very familiar with. It is something used much more in the corporate world, creating your own brand. Like the same way a bar of soap is a brand, um, there's a brand built around it. You can think of any product. You have your own brand as an individual. I've talked about this in terms of a value proposition, the value you bring. Um, Owning it really means knowing your worth, knowing what you bring to the table, knowing your accomplishments, and not letting anyone take that away from you, and not letting the fact that you were one of many, many thousands, as I said, of people who've been affected by this situation, that doesn't take away from your accomplishments one iota. It doesn't change who you are. You are not your job. And frankly, you are not your job search. You are a valuable person in your own right with your own successes, and you can own that, and no one can take that away from you. Thank you for joining me for this series. I do hope it's been helpful. I encourage you to take wherever you can, whatever resources are available to you, to maximize your opportunities and to accelerate this process for yourself and land in your next new role.